CJSW acknowledges and pays tribute to the traditional territories of the peoples of Treaty 7, which include the Blackfoot Confederacy comprised of the Siksika, the Piikani, and the Kainai First Nations, the Tsuut'ina First Nation, and the Stoney Nakoda, including the Chiniki, Bears Paw, and Goodstoney First Nations. The city of Calgary is also home to the Métis Nation within Alberta, including Nose Hill Métis District 5 and Elbow Métis District 6. CJSW 90.9 FM is located on the University of Calgary campus, which is situated on land northwest of where the Bow River meets the Elbow River, a site traditionally known as Mohkinstsis to the Blackfoot, Witchespaw to the Stoney Nakoda, and Gusitsi to the Tsuut'ina. Welcome to Calgary and the SDGs, a special podcast series made by Calgary Catalyst in collaboration with CJSW. This series explores how Calgary connects to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, known as SDGs for short, through local perspectives and the real-world impact of actions in our city. In each episode, our host Josephine is joined by a distinguished guest from the field, offering insights on the goals shaping our city's future. Now let's dive in. Sustainable Development Goal number 9, Industry, Innovation, and Infrastructure.
Today, we are discussing Goal 9, Industry, Innovation, and Infrastructure. Goal 9 of the UN SDGs aims to improve infrastructure, support sustainable industries, and boost innovation for development. It is a very exciting topic and very vast too. But we will try to cover all the important information. So joining us today is our special guest, Jason Cameron. As the Smart City Program Manager for Storytelling, Engagement and Experimentation, Jason and his team have established a culture of municipal innovation. Jason's biggest challenge in this role is reshaping the narrative of Calgary to a story of a vibrant innovation hub, where the city is an active partner in building a better future for all Calgarians. It's a great honor to have you on the show today, Jason. Welcome to the show.
That's great. Thank you so much for having me, Josephine. You said a special guest, but I've heard of some of your other guests on the podcast, and they're even more specialer. So I'm very honored to be here. Thank you. Thank you so much for including the Smart City team today.
It's my pleasure to have you here today. So to kick things off, let's understand the bigger picture. Knowing where Calgary stands will definitely help us appreciate its achievements and identify areas of growth. Jason, can you provide a brief overview of where Calgary currently stands in terms of industry, innovation, and infrastructure goals?
Sure. Well, I think it's no secret that Calgary is a dynamic city that's really known for its strong energy sector, but we're also diversifying the economy incredibly significantly with massive growth in the technology, financial services, and our creative industries. We've seen that, of course, with the films that are being attracted to the city, some of the unicorns that are coming out of our financial services and technology sectors. Now, the city, we really help advance innovation in all of these sectors by leveraging our own robust infrastructure through living labs. We also do a great work on making this a place that is vibrant, that is able to draw in talent. And the other thing that we've been really doing is building this excitement, this growing appreciation of the ecosystem here in Calgary. And I'm not the only one to say this, but Calgary is a city where these owners of infrastructure and these owners of ideas are colliding at an incredible pace. And, other cities will have 6 degrees of separation. So on Bay Street or Wall Street, if you've got a cool idea, the chance of you being able to take that idea in front of a venture capitalist that's willing to invest, or a CEO of a Fortune 500 company, it just doesn't happen every day. But in Calgary, we maybe have 2 degrees of separation. And that second degree is probably just a cousin you forgot you had. So, people with cool ideas are able to take their ideas in front of people that can do meaningful things with it, whether that's through investment or partnership or connecting you with other people in the community that can help. So that's the current state, I think, is really just about how we are diversifying, but we're diversifying in that small town attitude still. Even though we're, over 1.5 million people, we have this collaborative ecosystem here that wants to see each other succeed. I talked about our living labs, and I think this is another example of recognizing that you don't have to. The assets we have within the city, like our parking lots, our roads, we have tons of underutilized infrastructure that we can make available to businesses, academics, startups, innovators, to help them test and accelerate their own growth. So, as one of the largest owners of infrastructure in the region, we just simply make this list or this catalog of items available, and that includes like our digital and transportation networks, warehouses, park spaces, brownfields, even data that we collect. We make that available to advance new technologies. So we have people testing drones, autonomous cars, robot delivery, IoT sensors, even software. And, our Living Labs program that's ran out of smart cities and experimentation saw over 5,000 flight hours last year. So just companies that and universities and post-secondaries like SAIT not having to drive outside the city to test and try new things. So we have local startups, post-secondaries, and multinational giants all innovating on city infrastructure at low or no cost.
This is so exciting, and it is always amazing to know that so many advancements are happening in our city every day. And I love that about Calgary, the fact that you're just 1 or 2, 3 people away from your next collaboration or your connection for implementation of another new idea, which is just amazing. So thank you so much for giving us the overview about where Calgary currently stands. And my next question is specifically to your role that you're currently doing. So what is the government's role in fostering innovation and supporting the local economy in Calgary?
Sure. So the city plays that crucial role of fostering innovation by acting as that anchor tenant in the innovation ecosystem. We talked about Living Labs already and how they're accessing the city assets for innovation. But we also have an emerging procurement channels that are allowing us to pose challenges to industry to kick off collaborative pilots and experiments to improve city service delivery. So I'd encourage people to check out the innovation through procurement process. And we also have the ability to ask industry to partner with us on these solutions for innovations. So business units in the city like fire or parks can ask the market to show us how they could help improve staff training using VR or pedestrian safety at trains crossings. We also have our social procurement policy, which is great for startups and small companies. The city of Calgary makes thousands of purchases every year, and to deliver, just to deliver the services that we need. And so, through the social procurement policy, when we're making those purchases, we can strategically contribute to social equity, to economic resilience, social and economic reconciliation with Indigenous people, and even growing a green economy. So we reduce some of the barriers and by increasing access to city contracts by giving competitive advantage to small and medium-sized businesses, especially those that are owned by traditionally underrepresented groups in society.
Thank you so much for giving us an idea into how much what role that government does in terms of supporting the local economy here. And my next question to you is a bit more specifically into the technology part it plays. So how does the Technology Integration Center support this innovation and sustainable industrialization in Calgary? And also, can you tell us about the role it plays in building the resilient infrastructure that we were just touching upon to improve government decision-making and future readiness?
Great. Well, the Technology Integration Center, which will be opening in the fall of 2024, is really a place where the city can come to pilot and experiment. And that can be really tough for business units to explore technologies they're not familiar with. It can take the governments a long time because we have to maintain critical infrastructure, right? And so, how do you pilot an experiment, or how do you adopt a new technology without risking turning the lights off for everybody, or causing flooding, or getting something wrong? There's not a lot of space or social capital, even with taxpayers, to fail when we're making big purchases. So by developing the Technology Integration Center, or a sandbox for experimental culture, we speed up and we enhance the ability to test, to pilot, to experiment. So this should improve city decision making. So before we go out and we buy a $5 million solution, can we pilot something for $20,000? Can we speed up that process by having the security measures already in place, a safe sandbox to do this? So we improve decision making by allowing people to experiment before we make a large investment. We have an established pilot space that de-risks investment from startups. So one of the barriers that we do have when you're making big financial investments is you don't want to take a risk on a company that doesn't have a long track record and approve it. It's worked in Montreal and it's worked in Boston, so we can try it here, right? Which means a lot of the startups, and these smaller companies, which are the foundation of our economy, don't ever have a chance to sell to the city. And I think giving these companies with new ideas and innovative ideas a chance to pilot with the city unlocks their potential. And again, we just talked about that rapid experimentation. So, we know that VR is coming and it's being used for training at Sonic in the States to make milkshakes. So what does that mean for transit? Can transit use VR and for training bus drivers, and fire use it for training inspectors? And, we have all these business units that could benefit from VR training, but nobody wants to be the first to make those decisions, right? So can we, as a collective, in the Technology Integration Center, develop a virtual reality program where we have a VR cave or an immersion room, and we have different sets of goggles and software. So these business units can pilot training programs. They can pilot VR use cases in planning and development before they make a large investment. So rather than everybody having their own pilot, we get one investment in it, and it reduces the barriers to experimentation. So that's what the technology integration is supposed to do. That's what we're planning in September, October, and I really can't wait to see how business units within the city are able to develop this experimental culture.
That sounds amazing. To provide that opportunity for the local businesses here to invest and test their technologies will be a bigger boost for improving our city's growth. Thank you for highlighting that. Our next question is something that's very interesting, very commonly spoken these days. It's called smart city. Smart city initiatives are shaping the future of urban living. We heard that everywhere. Well, I wanted to understand, how does the smart city strategy promote Calgary's industry innovation and infrastructure while focusing on areas such as digital equity, critical infrastructure, regional collaboration, and living labs?
Well, I think that we talked about the experimentations really first. So our smart city strategy is 4 pillars: digital equity, experimentation, partnerships and regional collaboration, and storytelling. And how they all fit together to advance innovation in infrastructure, really, it starts with experimentation, being able to allow the city, without putting their own critical infrastructure at risk, allowing the city to rapidly try new things with partners. That's pretty easy, self-explanatory on innovation and infrastructure. But I think when it comes to things like digital infrastructure or digital equity, where we ensure all residents have access to digital tools and resources, we have to be able to unlock talent here. And when you think of the we know that language is a barrier, but so is digital literacy, and being able to apply for a job or even get housing if you don't have the digital literacy to be able to navigate that, or to navigate the city website to get permits for building or businesses, right? So digital equity is a big piece of that, and we see that as a potential to be a growing divide. Like, we're not far off. We're being in the hosting, and tourism industry. You're going to have to be able to have some great Excel skills, be able to use iPads, right? And if we're not teaching those skills or we're not giving the access to that, that's going to cause a huge divide in our society. But also we see this in partnerships and regional collaboration, working a lot with PSIs, post-secondary institutions. But we also have this great capacity within the city. We have people that are working on AI. We have people that are starting to look at quantum. We have that capacity. But our regional partners like Airdrie or Strathmore, Cochrane, they might not have that same capacity. But if we develop an AI tool for helping answer 311 calls, why wouldn't we share that with our regional partners? If we've got the capacity, let's work on some opportunities or identify those gaps where technology can solve, and let's work together on it. And of course, the storytelling pillar, really that fits in by spreading the word. We have to make tech accessible across city business units so that our decision makers have to feel comfortable with adopting new technology so that we can deliver better services or we can improve the resilience of our infrastructure. And so if we can raise awareness of what we're doing in the lab or in the integration center, that was a tough one, integration center, then we can help improve city decision making. But we also get to show how we are being accountable to Calgarians, like how we get to share stories about how the city is partnering with business or allowing business to leverage city assets to improve our economy and ultimately better serve Calgarians.
You're listening to Calgary and the SDGs, a podcast focusing on how Calgary connects to relevant United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. You're currently listening to an episode focused on SDG Goal 9, Industry, Innovation, and Infrastructure. To find this and more episodes, go to cjsw.com or the CJSW app.
That's great. And based on your answer, here's a fun, quick question for you. So, in your mind, in your perspective, how do you think a smart city should be?
Wow. What do I think a smart city should be? I think it should be connected. I think that's the biggest thing. And we've done that socially, but how do, be great to have that. It's still serendipitous, right? And so a smart city on the culture side, I think, is one where relationships are mapped. As a new person to Calgary, I might not have that maybe I do have 6 degrees of separation. How do we get that down to 2 degrees right away, right? How do we reduce the barriers to connecting your ideas and your passions with where you want to go? So I think we have to map that out. When do you go to platform to build an idea? When do you take that idea to the city and leverage living labs? And then what do you take those learnings from real world product testing back to platform, back to maybe to Calgary economic development, and you grow your market, and then you take it back to the city through innovation, through procurement process or a market-led proposal where you pitch it, say, hey, I've got this new technology. I've already tested it out. It works well, but you probably haven't heard of it yet because it's so new. And so, the city's building channels like that. So I think having a cool AI-enabled map that says, Pradeep works at the city of Calgary, but she's also on the board of the local paddling society, and I know her, and I can connect to her from here, and mapping out our ecosystem so that we can move at the speed of trust. I think that's a really cool socially AI connected community. I think the other piece is where we have a strong digital twin, where we have so many layers. We have so many layers of data. The city, probably 80% of all data that the city has a geotag, right? So we can map out everything from how fast a train is going to where pets are licensed to when roads were last paved, right? We have all this information. How do we use that to make smart decisions? Well, we have to collaborate across business units. We have to have data sharing agreements and strategies so that we can have a digital twin that it makes us or allows us to make better and informed decisions.
That is so cool. Thank you so much for painting that picture for us. And I'm sure if there's any student out there listening to it right now, or if any startups or organizations, they could generate more ideas from that. Moving on to our next question, you've touched upon local talent, and I spoke about students now. So my next question is about engaging that student community in this process of growth. So what is your thoughts on that?
Well, I think we have to develop and retain and attract talent. And we have to remember that resumes, degrees, your knowledge, they're all portable, right? Well, you could go to the University of Calgary here, as I look out the window and on campus. You could go to the University of Calgary or Mount Royal or SAIT, and you get your program and you get your skills. You could take those to California, Toronto, Vancouver. That's all really mobile. But your professional network isn't. And so if we can help students develop their professional network here, reduce that to the 2 degrees of separation for students, then they're more likely to want to stay, or it's easier to stay here or come here if if you were a summer student here. So if we can have students work on city projects that are meaningful. So we've had students build park benches through the School of Architecture and Planning. We've got students from other post-secondaries in town working on murals for the city. If we can, these students are getting real-world experience, but they're meeting parks planners. They're meeting people with fleet and facilities. They're meeting people in smart cities, and they're building this network that can help them advance their own passion and ideas. So I think that's a big piece. And post-secondary institutions in Calgary, they have a pivotal role to play in civic innovation by conducting cutting-edge research. We do a lot of partnerships with post-secondaries. In the Technology Integration Center, we'll have a project with the University of Calgary and a robotic arm that's about 2 meters tall that will 3D print in concrete. So can we look at RoboCraft and 3D printing as a way to meet our infrastructure needs for benches or barriers or even accessibility ramps for businesses? How can technology and partnerships with students help make that happen?
That's amazing. We are actually coming down to the last couple of questions. And I wanted to quickly ask you, since you mentioned a lot about technology and trends, so is there, do you see any future trend in technology and innovation that could be a game changer for Calgary?
Yeah. Like we talked about robotic fabrication, I think it really democratizes design and lets communities be a part of what the feel of their community is. I really like that. And I think, of course, we're seeing the boom in AI, but I honestly think quantum computing for improving business decisions, when you think of transit routes or garbage routes, city planning, I think quantum is what's next. And then but quantum is really improved if you have a strong digital twin. So I think those will be my 2 favorite pieces of exploration right now, is how do we improve our information sharing and data, and then put that into some quantum computing to make cool stuff happen.
That's exciting. So my last question for you is the question of the day. So the goal of the United Nations SDGs is to achieve them by 2030. Do you think in Calgary we can achieve this goal 9 by 2030?
Wow. Yeah, my team really is exploring or trying to ensure that the city has the infrastructure, both traditional and digital, to meet the needs of a growing city. That's the goal of the entire city, actually. And so for our team, that means that our fiber is there for the city and for businesses and for academia, so that we can leverage IoT and sensors and AI and digital twins to inform investment and maintenance decisions. So how can smart city support strong in investment in infrastructure and improving decision making? I think a digital city is attractive for city growth. So for the U of C, they use our digital infrastructure all the time. So Cyberra uses city fiber, as does the Internet Exchange. So having those strong pieces of infrastructure in place or services on that infrastructure helps make a digital communication cheaper and more reliable in our city. I think, are we on our way there? Yes. I mean, we have a new city. Our infrastructure, yes, we have problems. We saw that this summer, but our infrastructure is so much newer than the other cities in North America that we kind of have a leg up already. The next piece will be, though, is if we can leverage, the same kind of digital twins and the data sharing and the analytics and the information for decision making that uses that digital infrastructure, like we see in Singapore or in Seoul. Are we able to use that monitoring to ensure that our infrastructure is resilient?
Wonderful. That's the wrap for episode 9. Thank you so much, Jason. I know this is such a big topic, but you have walked us through right from the planning to the AI to the digital equity and whatnot. Thank you so much for giving us a complete picture of where the city is heading in terms of Goal 9 infrastructure and innovation and industries. It's such an honor to have you here today, and thank you so much once again for sharing all this.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
This concludes this episode of Calgary and the SDGs. To listen back to this conversation and find more episodes from the series covering other SDGs, visit cjsw.com or download the CJSW app.